Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we're going to be covering what I've been watching for the month of March 2022. Now, I know that March is not over yet, and I just wanted to get this off my chest. I've been ruminating with a lot of things I've been catching up on. I've been watching sports, I've been watching TV series, and I've also been watching some film. So I'll cover some of that with you today. But before we jump into that, I want to know, what have you been watching for this month? And what have you been up to, right? So let's jump into what I've been watching for the month of March 2022. All right, first and foremost, I saw a movie in the theaters, and I was able to see The Batman. Now, I normally don't talk about things that are coming out as they are. I used to do that a long time ago. At the very beginning of my channel, that's what I used to cover, is I used to do film reviews on this very channel, but I haven't done that in a bit. But I really, really enjoyed The Batman. Robert Pattinson does a fantastic job as the Batman, and I think he does a really great job of playing that second-year Batman and really just getting into that detective role. It really feels like the 90s cartoon, a lot like that, plus the detective comics from the 40s and 50s. So it feels like a noir, and I really, really enjoyed that, mixed with like a Fincher film of some sorts. And I'm sure none of that is very new to people hearing that. But I love Zoe Kravitz as the Catwoman, can't talk. I also really liked Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Of course, if you're not new to this channel, I'm in love with Colin Farrell, so he honestly stole the show for me because he was just unrecognizable, and also I could kind of see him underneath that, but like very barely. And then Paul Dano does a really fantastic job too. If you haven't seen it, I won't really give too much about that, but all the performances in this film, incredible. I really like Jeffrey Wright as well as Gordon, and yeah, just everybody in this is just perfect. It's one of the best Batmans I've ever seen, and I highly, highly recommend you check it out if you haven't. I'm pretty sure it's still in theaters because it's that good. It's been going on all month. The other film that I saw in theaters was one I watched a couple days ago, and one that will not get out of my mind. And I'm probably going to mispronounce this person's name, so I'm going to put it right here on the director. But I watched The Worst Person in the World, and I fell in love with it. It's really a hard movie to talk about, but it is one of the craziest breakup movies I can say that I've seen. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. But it's really about this woman who is going through a lot of stages in her life, and the few men that she has encountered. And that is a really simple and kind of stupid synopsis of it, because it has nothing to do necessarily with that very simplistic way of me putting it. But if it's something you haven't seen, I highly recommend you checking it out. It is a film that kind of just envelops you as you watch it. It's got some comedic moments. It's got some really heart-wrenching moments. It's a really fantastic film that really will pull on your heartstrings and give you so much empathy and hate for all the people involved. And but it's all too human, and I think that's what makes it so powerful. And honestly, I wish I had watched it earlier this year, or I guess the end of last year, because I don't know what this is. I think this is considered a 2021 film, and this would certainly either be my second or third, or maybe even my first film, my favorite film of the year. So it's that good. It's very, very good, and I highly, highly recommend it. So actually, now let's jump into some films that I have in front of me that I can talk about. All right, first and foremost, I jumped back into sports, and I watched the ESPN Films Collection Volume 1 for a 2-disc set right here. This actually came out, I want to say, near the end of 2010s. This is 2011 was when this came out. So it has 5 films in here. I've been watching a lot of the ESPN 30 for 30s off and on for the last couple years. I fell in love. I mean, obviously you can see The Last Dance behind me. I'm a fan of sports. I don't necessarily talk about it too often because I don't necessarily watch it either. The only one that I really do care about that I watch often is basketball, and I am an Indiana Pacers fan, but we're few and far between. And also March Madness is going on right now too, so a lot of people who normally don't watch basketball are watching basketball. But in this collection right here, we have Catching Hell, Charismatic, The Fab Five, Herschel, and Renee, and they're all really fantastic. So I was able to watch these near the beginning of the month, and I watched all of them. So the first film is Catching Hell, and it really just kind of goes into 2 incidents in baseball, where we have Steve Bartman's ill-fated incident and the Boston Red Sox first baseman Bill Buckner's fatal error, and it really just dives into those, and I really enjoyed it. And as somebody who is a light baseball fan, I think this was a really great moment to kind of see the fan perspectives of like how these, honestly, these moments in particular really ruined these particular fan base of these events. And it was just such a crazy time, and really to think about that. So the second film is Charismatic, and Charismatic is actually a colt, a horse, and his jockey, Chris Antley, and became the biggest long shots in 59 wins to win the Kentucky Derby. And it really kind of explores that and Chris's downfall as a jockey, because he got addicted to drugs and really just kind of went on a really sharp decline, really pushing a lot of people away from him. So it was a really good documentary as well. The Fab Five, the one that I like the most, which is about the five college players from Michigan. We have Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, Jimmy King, and Ray Jackson when they became freshmen in the fall of 1991 in Michigan, and were like one of the, I think, first for all five freshmen. I think eventually all of them started, but one of them would be on the bench a lot. But it's crazy to think that freshmen would start for a college team, which is just a crazy, crazy experience. But yeah, it just talked about this run, talking about their run with against Duke with Kristen Lautner and all that, and it was a really great film, and really kind of explores a lot of the different avenues. It doesn't have Chris Webber on this because I think he has an unnecessarily tie with this game, but I don't want to get too into it because I know not everyone is a sports fan. The fourth film is Herschel, which is an All-American Heisman Trophy winner, Herschel Walker, and is a college football legend, and kind of just talks about his mental health and struggle with going to college, and also being in the NFL, and then signing with another league, and just kind of getting in and out of it, and really just kind of being dealt a really bad card. But he's been going through a lot of stuff. And then the last film on here is Renee, which is about Renee Richards, who battled to enter the 1977 U.S. Open as the first transgender tennis player, and the struggle that Renee went through, and really just kind of understanding that transition that happened, and whether or not it was fair between switching over on the gender side of things, and how a lot of people took it at the time. And so I think it's a very unique story in that sense as well. But yeah, altogether, this is a great little collection of 30 for 30s. I would love for ESPN to finally put out third season on Blu-ray, but I don't think it's ever going to happen, which is unfortunate. But I love these things, and I just want to continue on with this one. So ESPN 30 for 30s, you should check them all out. All right, moving on to some TV series. I actually was able to watch a few TV series. This one I kind of binged in 2 days. I brought up Colin Farrell, right? I also want to talk about The North Water. This is a DVD from the BBC starring Jack O'Connell and Colin Farrell, and it is a 5-episode adaptation of a award-winning novel written and directed by Andrew High, who did 45 Years. I think I said his name correctly. But Ian McGuire's novel here, by the way, but this was written and directed by Andrew. But I fell in love with this story. Jack O'Connell is our main protagonist, and Colin Farrell is a harpooner on a whaling ship, and who both of them kind of set sail up north, and some really crazy shit happens, and I don't really want to get too much into it, but I love these stories of dramas where there's set against some kind of really terrible climate that's really against everybody who's going through it and persevering through it, but also at the same time dealing with humans on board and a lot of the struggles between them. And I think this film, I keep always talking about film, but this TV series is a really great character study on a lot of the people involved in these actual historical events. And this is something that is fictionalized, of course, but is akin to something like The Terror, or something that's, maybe Master and Commander-esque. I think this is a really great discovery and expedition going on here, but for different purposes, and really just kind of explores the whaling industry a little bit as well. Just very maybe small amounts, but it's more of a character study about these two characters, Jack O'Connell and Colin Farrell's character, and how ugly and brutal this lifestyle is. And this is an ugly and brutal story to be told too. And I watched the special feature, which is the behind the scenes featurette of the making of this. And apparently this is one of the northernmost locations that has been shot with actual locations, which is insane. So I've heard Colin Farrell talk a lot about how harrowing this entire process and journey was. And this is a not very talked about release that came out, I guess, last year. But I really, really want to promote this film. In fact, this is probably going to be in the thumbnail because I love it that much. and I want to highly promote it, like I said, because it's certainly worth a watch. And if you like dramas and you like TV series and BBC shows in general, check this one out. The North Water is surely up your alley, and when the sales are in your favor. All right, shifting gears real quick, I do want to talk about the... All right, shifting gears real quick, I want to talk about 6 films that I watched all in one day. I actually had a little bit of an adventure up in Colombia with my good friend, Daniel. And next, I want to transition to a day where I watched 5 films in a row. I was actually supposed to watch 6, but I had to work the next day, and we were able to join in on the F This Movies Fest for 1996. And this all happened on one day, where what we would be doing is we'd be live tweeting as we are watching this fest, and we were watching all films from 1996 as we were watching it all together. A lot of these films, I would say, let's see, 3 of the 5 that I had not seen before. 2 of them I have, and I would have watched the 6th one as well. So anyway, let me kind of explain what I did. So at 10 o'clock, we watched Mars Attacks, which I have seen in the past. I watched it back in the late 90s. What a crazy movie, and a lot of fun too. This is a movie that has a plethora of actors and actresses in it, and man, I love the cameos, and it's just quite a silly movie, and it was a really good way to start off this entire adventure because I hadn't seen Mars Attacks in quite some time, and I always just remember Pierce Brosnan with a dog body, and I'll just leave it at that if you haven't seen Mars Attacks. The second film we watched was The Rock. This is the film that I have never seen before. This is directed by Michael Bay, and I think it actually might be my favorite Michael Bay film that I've ever seen. Really, really loved this movie. Sean Connery, Nick Cage as our main characters here. Man, oh man, what a crazy film about some ex-military taking over Alcatraz, and just so many one-liners and so many explosions, but like perfect though. You know, like early Michael Bay perfection. So we had a really good time with that one. After that, we watched That Thing You Do, which is that Tom Hanks directed film about I think an early 70s band, right? I want to say it's the 70s. Don't quote me. And just following that adventure. And it's such a light film, but also so much fun too, with so much energy with everyone involved. And I just really, really fell in love with it and the characters. It just reminded me of all the kind of the films that I really enjoy, the music kind of bios, but this one was a lot more lighthearted, like I said, and kind of was a really good fit for the middle of the day. And then right after that, we watched the film The Phantom, which I actually have never seen before. When I completely was kind of blown away by what the direction of this film was. I've always seen the cover, but had no idea where we were going with this one. And The Phantom was quite a bit of fun. It's a Cape Crusader film, but in the jungle, and kind of one of those, almost it feels like an Indiana Jones film in some sense. But man, that cover always tricked me, and what a good time. And I didn't expect it to be as adventurous as it was. And yeah, it's something I think people should check out if you haven't seen The Phantom. And then the last film that I watched before I had to leave was From Dusk Till Dawn, which I do have. It's on the shelf over there somewhere. Great film. George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, Harvey Keitel. Love the film. Directed by Robert Rodriguez, and it has Selma Hayek in it as well. Of course, you can't forget her. Danny Trejo. Man, what a crazy film. If you haven't seen this movie, I'm not going to explain it too much, but George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino are brothers, and they are, I think, robbers at first, and then Quentin Tarantino just starts killing people when they start robbing people, and it just keeps getting more and more unhinged. And George Clooney is like, hey, this is what we're doing, stop killing people. And then they take some hostages, Harvey Keitel and his family, and then they're headed down south to Mexico, and that's all I'm gonna say if you haven't seen From Dusk Till Dawn. And then the other film that I would have watched was Independence Day, which I have seen many times, and actually have a really strong memory as a kid. And that alien, when they first made contact with the aliens in that film, just burned into my mind, and it's very scary. And I really enjoyed that film, and I haven't seen it in quite a bit, but I had to get back. So I watched all those for the F This Movie 1996 Fest, and yeah, I think they do this annually, and so if you want to check it out, certainly go to F This Movie's website and yeah, check it out and see what they have coming along. So now to jump into some more releases that I have physically. And then the last thing I want to mention is I've actually been back on the anime train, and I've been watching Attack on Titan. So I have 3 of the seasons here. So I actually don't have season 1 because I watched all of that on Netflix, and I actually watched the subtitled version, so I watched the original Japanese, and I just really enjoyed it. So I had to get season 2, season 3 part 1, and season 3 part 2. I'm actually in the middle of season 4 part 1, and right now they are actually ending the entire series with season 4 part 2, which is the final season. So I know I'm very late to the train on Attack on Titan, and not everyone is into anime, and that's totally fine. I mean, I grew up with anime and Toonami, and I don't really talk about it too much on the channel, but I do enjoy anime, and I just haven't, been into a show in a bit. And I kind of binged this, and I started, I think, near the end of February, and just kept going from there. And now here I am near the end of it, which is crazy because I think this show has been out for about a decade, right? And which is kind of nuts, but I do recommend it, and it is a great show that has a lot of complex characters and development, a lot of twists and turns. It's a very brutal show, so obviously it's an adult show with a lot of violence as well, but it's got a lot of politics going on with it, and not in the boring sense whatsoever. It's very gripping and compelling, and always has those episodes with cliffhangers, which just keeps, you want to keep watching it, and that's exactly what Attack on Titan does. So I highly recommend checking this show out. I think you can stream all of this on Crunchyroll. So if you want to check this show out, I would say you can get it for free on Netflix. So if you want to watch it, well, Netflix isn't free. If you have Netflix, which I think most of you do, you can watch it there and see what you think. Now, I watched the original Japanese subbed, so I don't really know much about the English dub. So I have no idea, and I haven't watched the movies or any of that stuff, but I'm on board with Attack on Titan, and yeah, so if you have any other animes that I could watch, I definitely want to check out a few other ones. I think Berserk might be on my list, and there's quite a few animes I have over there that I have seen before, so, but yeah, if you have any recommendations, let me know. And then the last thing I want to mention is the film Life Itself. So I think in my last Criterion haul video, I actually got Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which has Roger Ebert in it, and I had no idea the correlation here. So I was able to watch Life Itself. I rented it on Amazon Prime. I actually spent a little bit of money. I just remember reading an article talking about Roger Ebert and that documentary, and I was very curious about it. I really wanted to watch it. I think it came out in the early 2010s, and when Roger Ebert was about to pass away, and it was released posthumously, past when he died. Can't speak. But it is a great dive into the man himself and his time with Siskel and Ebert, time as an editor and in charge of the newspaper, and his weekly columns, and his alcohol addiction, and also what he was dealing with near the end of his life when he had cancer and lost his bottom jaw. It's quite gripping, and actually I really enjoyed it, and I actually will have to admit that I never really, as somebody who does something like this, where I am actually talking about films, recommending films, and in the general space of a movie reviewer, it's not somebody I never really necessarily watched or looked too into, and it's kind of crazy to think about that. So it was a little cathartic to kind of see that process of something that he loved so much and be a part of it in some regard. So there was something there that I really enjoyed, and yeah, even if I don't agree with everything that he has done or said or whatever, I really enjoyed the documentary, so I definitely recommend checking that one out on Prime if you want to rent it. So anyway, that's what I've been watching for the month of March. I've also been watching some Hitchcock films, which, stay tuned, I'll be doing a video very shortly on that. But I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Comment down below what you've been watching for the month of March, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.